Yeah. Well, let's just send the link out, and we're done. Should be a nice way to automate all this.
Yes, you think so, wouldn't there? Because we use the PC so little, every time I log onto it now, which is mostly just to do this call, I keep getting reminded about an update for my DLAN. But of course I can't do it now because we'll get cut off.
I thought you used Surface.
I use the Lumia for the call, but then I use the desktop for the website and the chat room and stuff. Yeah. Just multitasking.
Oh yeah.
I use my Surface Pro 3 for the chat room.
You could have one device. You should have one device for all. Right. Okay. That's everything going. Jason, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Oh, very good. Well, say very good. My son isn't so good. Well, he's okay now. But he managed to get his fingers trapped in the fire door at school. So I had to have an X-ray. Nothing. Go on.
Was he trying to go wider than Gary?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He didn't just go for the fingertip. He went for the whole finger.
Yeah, how's he? You're right.
Yeah, it's okay. There's no breaks or anything, so just feeling sorry for himself. But I did say that means you can't play on the Xbox, and he's well, no, I'll manage. No, you've got to be careful.
You need to get those Kinect games out. It'll be fine.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, wave at his Xbox. They haven't used their Kinect for about 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess that's probably why they've stopped selling them. Well, not stopped selling them, but.
And that's one of the things actually we didn't get to talk about last week, so we can mention that about the Xbox. There's another big announcement though, something that's been a long time coming, been planned for a few years, and a lot of people very excited about the announcement. And that's BT put fibre into my estate.
Hooray!
So I went on the BT OpenReach site as I do every couple of months and check, and it always says taking orders, and then I go onto it and it says you can't place an order. So I did it today, and it said check with your provider. So I did it with Sky, and it accepts the order. So I've not put it through yet, but it looks like I can do anyway, and it says I should get 40 megs. So slight improvement on our 1 meg that we've got now.
Yeah, that's 40 times faster. Wow.
And I don't know exactly how it's worked because they've not laid new fibre. It must be just they've got it to cabinet.
Yes, yeah, you probably noticed. I don't know if you know where your street cabinet is, but you probably find it's got a partner sitting next to it now.
Right, yeah. So I'm going to try and order that maybe when I get just when I get back on holiday or whatever. So 40 times should give us a slight better Skype recording. 40 meg.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Although I'll still be struggling with my 3, so. Our exchange is being upgraded at the moment, but not our street cabinet. Still about 2 years away. Oh. About 3 years away. Actually, it's 2017 is the latest. So.
And do you see that by going on OpenReach's site?
Yes, yeah, and also there's for Northamptonshire there's a super fast Northamptonshire.net website. Right. So they've got the rollout plans on there, and it's really frustrating to say because to do one of the villages that's come through to the upgrade phase, in order to give them fibre to the cabinet, they've had to upgrade our exchange that's connected to the village. So it means that we're literally just a street cabinet away from from getting fibre, but our village is projected by 2017, which is obviously a long way away.
Yeah, definitely. I've been very frustrated with mine as I keep checking the exchange, and it said, accepted orders, and no, I couldn't place an order, but I presume it'll work now because it says I can have 40, and Sky will accept it, so will BT. So it looks like I might be able to do that. Cost me a bit more, but I think 40 times the bandwidth is well worth it, especially with two 12-year-olds all trying to use Netflix as well as everything else.
Yeah, I mean, as I've said on the last few shows, it's really impacting our, as the future changes to the cloud and music streaming and video streaming, it's really hurting us now, and the kids are really starting to feel it. So, and in fact, trying to watch the Microsoft event today, it just kept buffering, and in the end, I stopped watching it on full screen. It just it's just so frustrating.
Yeah, it is very frustrating, and like you said, everything's going to the cloud, and you want to stream music and Netflix and Skype, or just even just browse the web. It's it's okay when it's just you're the only geek in the house. That's fine, or to a degree. But then when you've got just everybody in the family now use cloud services, it makes it even it times it by 3 or 4 or however many in your house. So it is a big problem.
Yeah, it is, and as I mentioned, with trying to use the Amazon Music cloud, it wasn't running 24 hours a day. I was mainly trying to do it overnight, but it took me 3 weeks to upload the tracks that didn't match, and it's just that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I noticed there was an Xbox update. It was 1.7 gig.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And if you just want to, I turned off the overnight updates because I'm on the beta. I need to do the updates, see them, and then I could document them. So I turned that off. So I came. I thought, I've got 5 minutes now. I'll have a quick go on my Xbox. I've not been on it for months. 1.7 gig update. Anyway, but that's not the main story.
No.
Although as far as my kids are concerned, that is the main story.
Yeah. Well, the main story for me is a non-event. It never surfaced.
Yeah. So, in case so the Surface Mini, what price is it? We know the specs because we've got all the leaks and rumours and everything else. So,
yeah, I think it's going to be called the Surface Mini Air. I think, as in thin air.
So, to serious notes, then Microsoft announced they had a Surface event today, which they trailed and invited people a couple of weeks ago. They had the announcement today, which they live streamed, and it was a Surface Pro 3 and no sign of a Surface Mini.
No, I mean, I must admit, Microsoft do an amazing job with these Surface events, because obviously the first one, nobody had a clue what they were going to announce. And then this time, all the rumours were around an RT-based Surface Mini, and that's what everyone expected. Even the real close Microsoft followers like Mary Jo Foley and Paul Thurrott, although towards the end of last week a few details started to leak about maybe a Surface Pro 3, but everyone was fully expecting the Surface Mini, and it just never appeared.
Yeah, so no Surface Mini, but what there was a presentation about the announcement of the Surface Pro 3. So let's go. Let's have a look at specs then. So first of all, screen size. Did you see first of all, did you see how much of this did you actually see? So how much do you actually know?
Yeah, no, I did watch all of it. I saw some of it on mute, and then part of the reason why I was late for the call was because I was just watching the last 5 minutes of it. So yes, I have seen the whole event all the way through. Buffering included.
So, screen size, what is it?
Yeah, it's a 12-inch screen running at 2160 by 1440, which I think is up from the 10.1 inch, is it? Or of the
it was 10.1,
yeah. Which is obviously quite a considerable increase, considering this is supposed to be used as a tablet. A tablet.
You coined that phrase a while ago.
Yeah, a tablet and PC device, but it's kind of I guess one of the things that have really worked towards, which I'm sure we'll come on to, is the weight and performance. But yeah, so it's a 12-inch device. And interestingly enough, one of the main slides they showed was the fact that I think it was 93% of iPad owners also carry around a laptop, or I guess a Mac in many places. But I thought it was quite an interesting statistic.
Yeah, so I think what the headline that they're going on really is they're sort of, there's no compromise with this device, and I think the quote was you can watch and make a movie with this device, and that people carrying a tablet and a laptop was the thing they were trying to avoid, and this is their solution for that. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, certainly with the 12-inch screen size and that resolution, many ultrabooks are the majority around the 13-inch mark, so it's slightly smaller. But I know I've heard Josh Pollard from Entertainment 2.0 saying that he's done Visual Studio development on a Surface 2. He said, you can do it, but it's not something you want to do for an extended period of time. But potentially this device with that 12-inch screen, it should be potentially an all-day productivity device.
Yeah, cause something like Visual Studio, it has a lot of toolbars and sidebars and Project Explorer things. So your code window if you're on a fairly small screen, it ends up in quite a small little code window, and it can get quite frustrating. So you do like to have that space. So it's things like that, I think, that make the difference with this. But then what Microsoft is saying is you can do all that, and it's still a tablet as well.
Yes, yeah, and I guess one of the key things they've done is move the Windows key to the side. It's on the right-hand side of the bezel, although the way they've orientated the Windows flag, it's clearly still meant to be used in landscape as opposed to the 18-inch devices that have the Windows flag indicating a portrait experience.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I noticed that as they were going on. It seemed a bit strange. I mean, is that been moved there to reduce the bezel size at the bottom? I can't really make out from the picture.
It's been moved for two reasons. One, I think when you've got a device of that size, you're likely going to be holding it with two hands, or at least holding it in your right hand potentially, and having the Windows key just there. I think it's more natural than moving your hand back to the middle of the device. But I think more importantly, really, it's the way the new, which I'm sure we'll talk about, the new type cover works with it clipping actually onto part of the screen. That would obviously hide the Windows key if it was left in its original position.
Of course, yeah. So they've shifted it round to the right, but as you said, it's got the same orientation as it does on the Surface 2.
Yeah. I must admit, I when I'm using the Lumia, I tend to be holding it on an edge, and so to use the Windows key in the middle of the screen does require some hand movement. I'm surprised in a way they put it on the right hand side. I guess that's a nod to the fact that the majority of the actually, kind of contradicts. I was going to say the majority of the human race are right-handed, but
the inferior majority.
Yes, absolutely. But in actual fact, that probably means, gosh, where am I to know? That probably means you're actually more likely to be holding it in your left hand and using your right hand. And I kind of would expect that to be underneath the thumb. And also interesting that they decided to put it on the side of the screen where you could actually swipe in to get to a start button if you wanted to.
Yes.
But I'm sure they've got their design and usage experience to put it in the right place. But yeah, that's essentially what's been moved to the bottom. I think one for hand travel and two for the fact that the keyboard would cover it.
Yeah. So as well as the screen size, your up screen size, obviously bigger screen size, higher res. The 9.1mm thick. That's thinner than the Surface 2, isn't it? Surface 2 Pro.
Yes, no, much thinner. I mean, the one thing I noticed when I used my wife's Surface Pro 2 in tablet form is it feels so thick compared to the Surface 2. One thing I was going to critically actually look at was the thickness of the Surface 2. I think it's probably almost on par with that. Let me see if I can quickly bring up the Surface 2 specs.
Because
Surface 2 is 8.9mm thick, compared to 13.46mm of the Surface Pro 2. So, I mean, it's 0.2mm thicker.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, it's thinner than a Surface. The original Surface RT was 9.4. So, I mean, they've done a heck of a job. Although, I guess with a bigger device, it's easier to move components around and really thin it down.
Yeah, because that's a bit like with the large smartphones, isn't it? You're essentially squashing the device with the bigger screen, so you can move things around. But that is a nice thickness, because the Surface, I use my Surface 2 all the time. The Surface Pros I've only played with occasionally, and they always seem like quite a chunky device compared to the Surface 2. So that's going to bring that back into line in a much slimmer device.
Yeah, and also it's a word we use quite often to describe the Surface Pro 2, which is the Surface Pro 2 feels very dense when you hold it. It feels like a dense device, whereas I think with it being a bigger unit and with the internal components moved around, I think it'll be much more balanced in the hand, considering it's a bigger device.
Yeah, it's 800 grams as well, so it's light.
Yes.
Microsoft showed off by sticking a MacBook Air on a scale next to it.
Yeah, I mean that was certainly an interesting an example. Certainly brought a point. Again, just looking at Surface 2 is 676 grams and a Surface Pro 2 is 907 grams. So it's really kind of pretty much bang smack in the middle of both of those.
What other changes? Oh, kickstand. What do you think about the new kickstand?
Yeah, so obviously with the original Surface, we had the one position 22 degrees. and then with the Surface 2 and the Surface Pro 2, what was the second? Is it 33?
I don't know the exact angle. Yeah,
Yeah.
To be honest, it's the one that I pretty much always use unless I'm stuck for space.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But the one thing that they've done now is they've actually designed a completely new kickstand. So it still has the 22 angle initial click, and then it has a smooth. What's the word I want? Kind of gradual increase.
Transition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
You can actually control it, can you? You can pick any of the three between 22 and 150.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it really does kind of smoothly fold back on itself.
That's I like the idea of that. I must admit, because like I said, I use the second angle quite often, but when it on a lap, it's not. You can't always find the exact angle that you want. So having that extra flexibility looks really good. What Microsoft call it lappability, I think, which is another new invented word.
Yes,
Like
yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm definitely, you can use the Surface Pro 2 device on the lap, but the benefit of a laptop is the fact you've got that screen that can tilt to the exact angle that you want, and so they've managed to reproduce it with the Surface Pro 3.
Yeah, I must admit that is a nice feature. It looks like that could make it a lot more comfortable to use on just wherever you need to be, really.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it certainly makes sense. I mean, certainly, like I say, for the market they're now going after, it had to have that flexibility.
Yeah.
And I think, one thing with the Surface Pro 2 is you still kind of felt, although with the second position it was much better, but you still kind of felt there was that risk of it topping backwards, whereas if you could pretty much lay it quite flat and all the weight is going to move down, so it's actually pulling the device down as opposed to potentially pushing it backwards. And again, then when you're using the touchscreen, instead of pushing the device away from you, you're going to be pushing down onto your lap. So I think one concern, which would be interesting to see some reviews, is actually how stiff it is to bend, because what you don't want to be doing when you're using it on your lap at a low angle is every time you press the screen that it slightly changes the degree.
Yes, if it's like spongy, so yeah, you're pressing it and it's sinking into the desk.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. But hopefully they've thought of that. I mean, one thing with the Surface devices, they're so beautifully designed. Even with the two-position kickstand, I've never had any problems with the durability or the usability of it.
No. What else have we got? Oh, we've got the pen.
Yes. I mean, one of the things that they really went on about was how they've really made the actual screen and the digitizer really, really, really thin, to the point that it makes it so much easier to use. And I can't remember the exact word he used, but he was talking about the delay in terms of using a pen on the screen, and also the fact that quite often you can find with some pens on cheaper devices that where the nib of the pen touches the screen isn't actually where the ink starts to come from. So that's something that they've worked really, really hard on, so that it is like writing on paper.
Yeah, well, I wonder about the pen. It's almost like they're going, this is what they tried to do with the original tablet PCs that we talked about last week with Jose and his TC1100, and this is kind of almost where Microsoft wanted to be in 2002, and the hardware just wasn't ready, and the software, but mainly the hardware.
Yeah, absolutely. And while writing on screens is still quite a niche market, I think Paul Threat had a really good article this week about is is inking the future of Microsoft? And from a professional perspective, and from that look at that niche productivity market, I think it is really important. It's one thing that Microsoft have got a lot of experience about. As you say, going back 10 years. And it's the one thing they can still, I think, probably beat Apple hands down, and even Android to that degree, in terms of having productivity apps that you can just write on the screen and have it convert that directly into usable text.
I used to use a pen, on my tablet PCs. I must say it's something I'm not sure I really miss, but I guess it's that niche device. Maybe if it was there when I go to a meeting, I would use it to take notes. I used to take notes on my HP tablet, and now I just do it just by typing. So maybe it would be better if I had that, and I would use it if it was there.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I feel I should do, and I go to meetings all the time, and take along a spiral pad and pen with me, and looking at the presentation today, I kind of thought, why don't I take a tablet? I mean, I've only got an RT-based device that doesn't have that digitizer, so it's not an option for me at the moment. But I think what still kind of puts me off is that at the end of the day, it's still about how you touch a screen and the marks that you leave on it, in terms of then seeing it when you're trying to use the device. And I'm sure, again, this is an age thing, but there's still a part of me that just, it doesn't feel right laying your hand on a screen and writing notes. And again, one of the things that they did at the original Surface event and the new event last year, and this one, they call it the hand block technology, where you lay your hand or your wrist to write and it doesn't see it as touch input. But for me, it's still the mess that you leave on a screen when you're writing, because you rest your palm, your wrist on a notepad when you write with a pen, and you're naturally going to leave marks and all sorts over the screen. But I do feel like it's something that I should be getting into. That's
why I carry a microfiber cloth around with me, even just for the touchscreen. I hate having horrible fingerprints over it, so I can clean it every now and again.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, it does take me back. I used to do notes on in OneNote, when OneNote was local storage, and you used to save it to the local drive, and sometimes use Live Mesh to copy it around or whatever. But yeah, I used to take that, and I have got away from that. So the integration was quite nice with that OneNote as well, with the pen.
Yeah, and I also think I'd be interested to hear your opinion on this. In some ways, I also see it as a bit of a social barrier, in terms of, same as talking to your phone. I'd be worried about sitting in a meeting looking like, oh, look at him showing off with his tablet, he's going to try and write on it, and then it wouldn't quite work properly, and you just look like a complete idiot trying to, you know what I mean?
Well, there is an element to that, but I remember when I first got my Apple Newton, in, what was it, 93, 94 it was, people used to think I was, it's just really weird turning up with this device, because nobody had electronic devices for meetings then. So I used to write on that with the pen, not very accurately, but I used to write on it. And then, like I said, I got HP tablet PCs. I used to take that into the meeting and write on it, and I found some respects it was easier to do that than to take a laptop. Now you go into a meeting and everybody takes laptops with them. I was one the other week, and 20 people sat in a meeting with 20 laptops and other devices at the same time as well. A few years ago, I used to find not everybody did that, and it wasn't kind of as acceptable. But I used to find that if you had the tablet flat on the desk with a pen, you didn't have the sort of laptop screen barrier in front of you, so it felt a bit more social when you were taking meeting hours. But it doesn't seem to be as much as an issue now. The other thing I used to find as well, I used to write handwrite the notes, and then sometimes I couldn't read them. Even the recognition couldn't read them, and neither could I. So type notes are always a bit easier, but I always find as well, you tend to take more notes if you're doing it with a pen than you would do if you were doing it typing it.
Yes, yeah, I know what you mean, and that is a good point actually. It's such a barrier. Sitting in a meeting and you've got everyone with a laptop blocking everyone else's view, kind of thing. You're kind of peering over someone. You're peering over your laptop, and you're peering over the person opposite you with their laptop, and they're typing away. And like you say, yeah, I think if you can just write on a screen, it does kind of almost, the technology should fade into the background. So long as it works accurately.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see the renaissance in sort of the pen and the return of the tablet PC, or whether it's just another input thing, and we see. But yeah, I like the way you click the pen and it would open OneNote ready to take an input. Kind of like opening your notepad, you can say a little bit like gimmicky, I suppose, but it can be quite handy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing I'd missed was whether or not they mentioned it was just a new version of OneNote or a specific version for the Surface Pro 3, because that's not a path I'd really want them to go down, where you've got an application, but if it's an application that takes advantage of specific functionality, then that's slightly different.
I would suspect it's a key it's like a launch key combination, and it won't be a special version of Outlook, I would think. But it wasn't the touch version of Outlook, though, was it? It looked like the full desktop one. I couldn't quite sure from the video.
Sorry, not Outlook. Sorry, OneNote.
Sorry, OneNote. Yeah, so did I. So,
yes, no, it was definitely the modern version of OneNote.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Which I've actually got quite used to now. It works quite well actually. But that's another story, isn't it? About Outlook, OneNote, and I use Evernote, and those two services. It used to be completely OneNote, and then I switched to Evernote because of the cross-platform stuff. But now Microsoft got cross-platform. I'd probably switch back to OneNote because the Metro app the modern app is better than the Evernote equivalent.
Yes, yeah, especially with that cross-platform, integration that's now come. But yeah, it was definitely interesting. Like you said, the olden days you'd be reading a paper and you might read an article that you're interested in. He was, showing it. You're viewing a web page, you click the pen, and OneNote kind of appeared over the top, and then you just cut out the piece of the paper that you wanted, and it went straight into OneNote stored. And as you said, with OneNote syncing to the cloud, it's instantly in the cloud. And if you've got your default notebook as one that's shared, then everyone's got access to that.
Yeah. In terms of sort of what other covers, there's the first time there's three processor options.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, sorry, just going back to the pen for a moment. Did they show that it actually fits into the device anywhere? Or is it?
I don't remember seeing slotting in.
No, I think, which again, I think in some ways I can understand it poses a difficult, they need to fit it in somewhere, but I still think it should be a way to store it inside the device, because I think I'd always found that I just didn't have it with me when I needed it.
Yeah, and that's what I used to love about the TC1100. It used to have a pop-out pen, so you put the pen in, and then you could sort of push it, and it would pop out. In fact, the other HP tablet I had did that as well. So you never lost your pen that way.
Yeah, and I know with the Surface Pro 2, and I think the original Surface Pro, they made the pen actually attached to the power connector, but that's kind of a bit redundant if, meant you have to set the pen off and put it somewhere safe while you charge the device. So, but anyway, yes, sorry, you went on to the processors, and yes, it's going to choices of Core i3, i5, and i7 processors. That's about the only information they gave away, although I did see some leaks earlier, towards the back end of last week, saying that it was probably going to have a similar kind of respective configuration in terms of memory and SSD space as it goes at the table. So the i7 went the biggest 512 gigabyte storage, and then 8 gigabyte of RAM, but they didn't reveal any of that today. Yeah,
they have some more details on the Surface block.
Right.
So they said there's i3, i5, and i7. The storage goes from 64 gig, which I think is a little tight, really, if you can use it as a laptop replacement, up to 512 gig SSD, 4 or 8 gig of RAM options. It's got USB 3, mini display port, and a micro SD on there. I think the for me though, 64 gig is going to be the one the cheapest one, and that I find that you're going to be pushed for space, especially if you are using it as a laptop replacement, and you're going to be putting on whatever Visual Studio or Adobe or Pavilion, whatever you want to do on it.
Yeah, again, it would be interesting. I'd imagine not, given the size of the storage device, but again, it would be interesting to know whether or not it's going to use the new WIM image files for the operating system, because if that's the case, you might still get a good chunk of that 64 gigabyte. And given that it's designed for cloud storage, then it could be workable. But yeah, I mean certainly with a device like that, it's something that I'd want to be using Hyper-V on it. So I'd be looking at the 256 or the 512 option.
Yeah, and the price, I should say about the price as well, because this is where it gets, I suppose, quite interesting, is $799, which I think is about £500 when you translate it correctly,
yes.
as opposed to the normal translation that we get for these devices. So I don't know, for a UK price, maybe £650, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be something around that. I mean, the Surface Pro 2 starts at 719, including VAT.
So,
trying to think, actually, that's for the.
So I suspect it will be. Well, it's gonna. I think it's $100 cheaper the Surface Pro 3 than the Surface 2 Pro. Surface Pro 2 on the US store.
Right, got you.
So $100, 60 quid. So maybe just get below that £700 mark.
Yeah, possibly. It'd be interesting to see what happens to the pricing on the Surface Pro 2.
Yes, I'll come back to talk about the other devices as well, but I would imagine once you get to the i5 and the i7 one, especially the i7 with 512 storage, you're going to be 1,500 quid, aren't you, minimum for that?
Yeah.
But I suppose if you're a developer or an artist in Photoshop or in business and you just need plenty of grunt, and that's probably the kind of price you look at maybe for a high-end laptop. I mean, if you're buying a MacBook Air, I think they start at 800 quid now, something like that. So with an equivalent processor as well. So maybe if the next laptop I'm going to use for Visual Studio and other Hyper-V and whatever, then maybe I would be looking at say 700-800 quid for a new laptop. It's a big stretch if you're looking at Surface RT, Surface 2 pricing, but for a laptop replacement, I suppose it's not that bad. And if you place a laptop and a tablet and just having the one device, and you're not buying an iPad at 400 or 500 quid or whatever, then I suppose you could justify the price yourself if you if you try.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I was going to say. I mean, it depends whether or not you believe the marketing being given out by Microsoft. But yeah, if you did take into account that 93% of people that have got a tablet or an iPad and probably a relatively high-end laptop, then it's replacing two devices. But so it really depends whether or not you actually believe that marketing spin.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's worth talking about that. I'd be interested to hear from what the listeners say as well. They can send some feedback, because when I travel, I take the Surface with me, Surface 2, and I also take my iPad Mini with me. I stopped taking the third device, which is a Toshiba as well. I think sometimes that's overkill for one night away. but so I still can't do any development with that. So if I wanted to do any development, so if I'm going on site for work, I'm going to do some coding while I'm there, I have to take my big laptop, and then I usually I'll probably have a Surface and the iPad Mini, but the iPad Mini is more of a sort of recreational device, really. So I don't know whether this could replace, all that.
Yeah, I think, like I say, it's really a marketing message they were giving out, but if that percentage of people are people that own an iPad Mini and a laptop, then I think it is difficult to drop that mini device. I think they're kind of missing, a perspective in some ways, because, all right, so a 12-inch tablet that can be used as a tablet or a PC, it's actually probably similar to any 12-inch, 13-inch device where you can rip the keyboard off. But like you say, then when you're relaxing in the evening, you probably only want an 8-inch device just for a bit of web surfing. Do you really want to be sat on the sofa with a 12-inch screen? That would be my concern. I think from a business perspective, it could replace having to carry two devices, but I think for me it would be purely from productivity work, and then I still want my own personal kind of downtime 8-inch or 10-inch tablet.
Yeah, and I suppose that there are just devices like the Toshiba Encore and the Dell. Excuse me, like the Toshiba Encore and the Dell devices that do fill that gap. And it's interesting that Microsoft didn't even address, even mention that small form factor tablets, which I've grown to really like that smaller device. And I'm a bit like you. On the sofa, I tend to use either the Encore or the iPad Mini, and I'll be reading, say, with Flipboard, and then if I see an article, I'm going to write a post on that, then out comes the Surface, and I do that. Anything if you're just browsing, you're going Facebook or whatever, I tend to use one of the smaller devices.
Yeah, although I guess maybe from another perspective, that if you did have this as a business device and you were going on a business trip, you might decide, given that your tablet usage time might be quite restricted, actually you probably would just travel with one device as opposed to two.
Yeah. I mean, I would never travel with one device. I can't. I just can't. I'm gonna be good though, because I'm on holiday next week and I'm only taking the Surface and my iPad. I'll leave the Encore here.
Yeah, that's still
probably.
2 devices.
Yeah, but that's a probably. That's I might accidentally just slip the Encore in the bag at the last minute. You never know.
Yeah, and you're not being completely honest, are you, Ian? Because I'm sure there's a mobile phone going in there as well.
Oh, two phones.
Yeah, but we're not normal.
No, but I'm perhaps looking at my my MD at work. He has I think it's a Vio or something like that, a fairly lightweight Vio, and he has iPad Mini as his own personal one, and the Vio would replace the iPad Mini, and perhaps he wouldn't even take the iPad Mini if he replaced his Vio and the iPad Mini, he probably could get away with the Surface Pro 3.
Yeah.
But then again, I would probably say to him he could probably get away with the Surface 2 because he's not using Visual Studio or anything. He's using Outlook, Excel, or whatever. So, but the 12-inch, I suppose the 12-inch screen makes a difference on that.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I still wonder whether or not Asus are onto the real potential solution to these problems. If you had an iPad Mini or a Surface Mini that actually had somewhere slotting into a 12-inch screen, then I think that would be a brilliant solution. That you got something that's small if you need it, but then you've got the larger screen. I think that maybe that's difficult to do with this kind of processing power. I don't know.
Now, the other things that were announced today, including this, is the new type cover. No, they call it type cover 3.
They didn't. They just said it. They called it the new type cover for Surface Pro 3.
Right. So that was going to be a question. Do you think that then is for Surface Pro 3 and not specifically, or not designed to work with the other surfaces?
I would imagine so. I think there's probably 3 good indicators there. There's the fact that the keyboard would have to be wider, and also taller or deeper.
Yep.
And also it's got that magnet that attaches to the screen, which would cover the Windows key, even if the Surface Pro 2 has got that magnet support. And also just the fact that you mentioned that it was kind of thinner, so I think it has been specifically designed for these.
Yeah, I suppose the like you said, the main reason that is it's a cover as well as the keyboard, isn't it? If it was just a keyboard, then you could imagine it being interchangeable with the devices, but it is the cover, and so it's got to match the screen size.
Yeah, I think one thing that could be interesting is whether or not it's possible to snap in one of the earlier keyboards, not necessarily to act as a cover, but maybe if you wanted the device and didn't have the keyboard and you just wanted to temporarily have that facility. I can't imagine there'd be any reason why the old style wouldn't fit the newer device, but it'd be interesting to see if they've specifically designed it so that's not possible.
And one of the key things they say is it's got a 63% bigger trackpad, and they've improved the trackpad, and that is my biggest criticism of the type cover 2 is a poor trackpad, particularly the left and right click buttons. Yeah,
I mean there was definitely a good indication of kind of new Microsoft, wasn't there, where he said, look, the trackpad, I've heard you, I felt your pain, we've addressed it, it's clear they are listening.
Yeah, quite like that idea. So it looks quite nice, the new cover, I've got to say. 5 colours it comes in, and quite a nice looking device.
Yeah, and he also obviously made the point of clicking that onto the Surface Pro 3 and still the scales didn't move.
Yes, and you mentioned, as you mentioned earlier as well, it kind of locks in against the bezel for when you put it on your lap.
Yeah, because there is the one thing I've noticed with the Surface keyboards is when it's on your lap and you're typing, there is that movement in the keyboard where the kind of what you might call the book part actually meets the surface. It's got some give in it, but when you're typing on the keyboard, it kind of moves. I guess like the spine of the book where it folds over. So what they've done is they've actually put an extra magnet just in front of the keys, that you actually push the keyboard forward and that magnet attaches to the screen and makes a solid connection, so that when you're typing, the keyboard becomes this solid, unmovable object.
Yeah, I quite like that idea. I don't have too much complaints with mine, but I can understand why they've done that. Oh, and battery life. What do they say about battery life? Oh, it's on the Surface blog. They say 9 hours.
Yeah, I must admit I completely missed that in the presentation. So, I mean, 9 hours. That's up slightly from.
Say 10% up from the Pro 2.
Yeah, which I guess is again a bigger battery. It's kind of surprised they didn't announce a keyboard with a battery in it. But maybe it's not selling well. Maybe the added thickness just isn't too much of a compromise for what they're trying to achieve. But I think again they could have flattened out with a keyboard. They could have flattened the battery out slightly. But yeah, I mean 9 hours. That's all day at the end of the day, isn't it? That's what you want from a productivity device. It's as long as you can get through the day and maybe still have a bit of charge left over, then yeah, I think that's pretty good going.
Yeah, so I think that side of it is pretty good, and it really is a Surface device that if money was no object, it'd be the one that you would have. I think still for my usage, where I'm not doing the development on it, so I can get away with an RT powered one, an ARM powered one. But the 2 itself, the Surface 2 is probably a slightly better choice when you've got a big laptop that you can use for the office. But as a single device, I can see its advantages, and this maybe it's going after the sort of the MacBook Pro market, maybe not even the Air, although there's the 11-inch Air and the 12-inch Air, the 13-inch Air. So maybe it's that high-end one, and the OEMs are going to still sell their continued devices. Maybe the high-end, like the Acer S7 and some of those sort of the higher-end Ultrabooks are the ones that I can imagine someone like Gary being interested in this and using it for development, because I think he still uses his original Surface Pro.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Microsoft never seemed to get right is naming, and that's one thing that really struck me. It's a Surface Pro 3, but where does that really fit in? Does that mean when they refresh Surface Pro 2 that will become the Surface Pro 4? I would have really liked to see maybe the Surface Pro 2 line thinned down to say the 64 and 128, and then have this as the Surface Pro 2, but the 256 and 512 gigabyte configuration. It's almost like you do when you order a Dell. You choose the screen size that you want, but it's still the same model line.
I suppose they've got all the new keyboard and everything else. It's a new device.
Alternative, I think maybe calling it a Surface Ultra might have been a better differentiator in terms of naming. I just think they've created a bit of a hole for themselves in terms of where they go with the next Surface Pro branding. Yes,
because it's a premium. Although I was just going to say, it's a premium version of the Surface Pro, but then if it comes in at the same price or cheaper than the Pro 2 currently is, then it's not like a premium top end one. It is a replacement. I mean, that was going to be the next question I was going to ask. Does this replace the 2 then, or do they, the 2 Pro, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, one thing they did with the original Surface RT, although I noticed now on the Microsoft Store online it says while stocks last, get yours while they're still around. So whether or not they're looking at phasing that out, maybe there's a new Surface RT coming along. But yeah, I think it may be that the Surface Pro 2 line hangs around a bit like the original Surface line, maybe with a price reduction. But then, like I say, I think it's not necessarily the old version, is it? It's about choice. It's about what screen size do you want and what do you want the device for. Yeah, and so whether they'll continue, whether this would be, the Surface 2 Pro and the Surface 3 Pro just options in the range. That's what I think you mean, isn't it? Rather than one versus the other. Yeah, it's almost like the Surface Pro 2 should become the Surface Pro 10, actually in 10-inch, and the Surface Pro 3 should be the Surface Pro 12. Yeah, that would be a way of describing it. Yeah. Yeah, I think we say it time and time again, don't we? Microsoft seem to have this. They're coming up with some amazing devices, but just naming conventions seem to let them down. Yeah, because I mean, when you look at that, does that mean then we'll see a Surface 3 soon that is an ARM-based device but the same screen size? Yeah, I think I'm certainly. Sorry, go on. No, go on. I was just going to say, I mean, certainly it seems an odd refresh cycle, doesn't it? I mean, it's what, 6 months since the
Yeah.
Surface Pro 2 was launched. I wouldn't expect to see another Surface RT device until, kind of October, November time. But at the same time, there's also this strange situation whereby, Microsoft now has the Lumia 2520. Where does that really fit in terms of the Surface bundling? And I wonder whether or not, maybe they're having a change of tact and maybe looking at taking that Lumia device and making that the 8-inch version and keeping the Surface 2 as a larger device. But yeah, I'm a bit of so I'm kind of really confused about the whole naming and launch cycle. But yeah, I would expect us to have another 6 months before the Surface RT is relaunched. Particularly, I think maybe around the Windows 9 time frame, with us talking about Windows Phone and Windows RT becoming much more aligned, with RT maybe losing the desktop completely.
Yep. So maybe we'll see in October a Surface 3 ARM-based machine that's because you don't really need a 12-inch version of that, I don't think. If you're gonna go for the 12-inch, then you might as well have the full Windows, and then for the intermediate size, you can have an ARM-based one, and then maybe the Lumia pick up the 8-inch size range. So you got the Lumia, an 8-inch Lumia tablet ARM-based, and you've got the 10-inch, 10.1-inch Surface 2, 12-inch Surface Pro, and that's your full range then.
Yeah, I think that kind of thing would make sense, and so I think I fully expect to see a new Surface RT device aligned with the Windows 9 launch. And yeah, as you say, I think it does make sense that actually at that point when the desktop disappears, that the Surface 2, either a combination of the Surface 2 or the Lumia, becomes the 8-inch tablet, and then the Surface Pro 2 successor kind of settles into the 10-inch device, and then Surface Pro 3 the bigger.
Yeah, and you wonder how that. Yeah, it's interesting to see how that goes forward and fits in with the Lumia brand, because the Lumia is a very good brand, as we've discussed before, and whether the 2520 will continue, or whether that will just go quietly away, or whether that will pick up the consumer brand and Surface Pro becomes the higher end, maybe.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And actually, a quick mention, I think I briefly mentioned this last week, I got the replacement charger component for my Lumia, and interesting, all the communication came from Microsoft Mobile.
Right, so that was the European version?
Yeah, that was a bit exactly like the Surface 2 power adapter. You've got the physical adapter, but then you've also got a plug that attaches so that you can swap it out for different countries. So, and essentially it was that part that you swap out that was faulty on the UK devices. So that's all I got in the post. It wasn't a complete new charger.
Right.
But like I say, all the letters in the envelope and the emails I got confirming it had been sent all came from Microsoft Mobile, operating as Microsoft Mobile OI.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all sorted now, which is good.
Yeah. So it just makes me wonder though how so many people, is the Surface Mini a wishful thinking, or was so many people speculated on that and all thought that's what they were going to have today, and it's not there.
Yeah, I mean, you have to trust someone like Paul Thurrott. He doesn't write stories unless he's got first-hand knowledge. And, he says he's seen a Surface Mini device or type device, and the reason why it didn't launch before, he was saying, was that due to shortage of components, they decided to focus on the Surface 2. But then you do, as we've just been talking about, you do wonder whether or not actually they've decided to backtrack and think, actually it's not the right time to launch this. Let's wait for the Windows 9 time frame and do a model, realign the models as we talked about. So maybe it just decided it wasn't quite the time, the right time, because, I know you've mentioned that you like using the Encore, but when you do have to dip down to the desktop, it is a tiny experience.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
No, I just think maybe, trying to launch a mini device kind of sets that perception that even when they did have a version of Windows without the desktop, people have already been turned away from that concept.
Yeah, Yeah, and we should mention availability as well. So when is that going to be available to the US?
I completely missed that, so I'm going to be relying on you.
Well, in the US, it's going to be available from the from Wednesday. So as this goes out on Thursday, yesterday, at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time, and in stores on May 21st. So June 20th. So let's start that again. You can pre-order. You can pre-order from Wednesday, and you can pre-order from stores on the 21st of May. It's going to be available for purchase in stores on the 20th of June, and in the US, that's for the US, and for other markets, including Europe and UK, August, at the end of August. So you're not going to see those devices. So we're not going to be able to order those or get hold of those till the end of August, which is pretty much what they did last time, wasn't it? I think there was a slight delay, which is even more, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I was disappointed to hear about I was hoping they were going to discuss wider availability of the accessories. I'm still so disappointed that there isn't a Surface Pro desktop cradle available in the UK.
Yeah, and there's a new one there as well for Pro 3.
Yes, and again, I think it would have been quite nice if they'd been able to design a one fit. The way that you pull the slides out to release the device, it wouldn't have been impossible to make that fit both. In terms of just having it, you just kind of slide it in a bit less. But yeah, I guess this is a very custom device, so they're customizing the experience. But yeah, still a real shortage of accessories available outside the US.
Yeah, in fact, they're just not even on the store anymore, are they? They used to be, and they used to have a little thing to say, email me when available, and that they've just gone now.
Yes, yeah, and I really would like to get my hands on one of those, so might have to source it from alternative means.
eBay.
Yes.
US eBay, but then you've got to get another adapter.
Yes, yeah, that's the problem.
So, an interesting announcement. Like you said, Microsoft did a pretty good job keeping the details under wraps until fairly recently. No one really knew what it was, but it's a nice device. They showed off. I think the theme of it is definitely it's a productivity device that's a tablet, and Adobe on stage showing off Adobe. They were doing note taking with OneNote. So that's definitely the theme. It's not a consumer device as such. It's a hybrid device, but it's probably the best Windows experience you're going to get on a sort of at that size screen anyway. You should hope.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I did hear him saying, it wasn't really made a big deal of, so I might have misinterpreted it, but he made it sound like some of the components are actually cut in manufacturing process. So, obviously, a chip or certain electronic components have a size, but that size, varies by a few mil, and when you're packing stuff into the device like that, particularly with the fan, every millimeter, every micron counts, and he made some comments about each part was cut on the production line, which is that's an amazing feat if you think that fan, the design is being scaled, albeit by microns. If that's true, like I say, I might well have misinterpreted what he meant, but that's what he certainly sounded like he was saying.
Yeah, it certainly looks an impressive engineering feat. That's for sure. But looking forward to try one. I am in America next week, so I don't know. They won't have them in stores to play with though, probably. So
no, shame we weren't in the press event today.
Yeah, and I'm sure my family don't want me to go. I don't think I'll have to check. Is there a Microsoft store in Florida? It's probably one in Miami. Today, kids, we're not going to the theme park. We're going to the Microsoft store. Yay!
Yay! Yeah, I can just hear the cheers now.
Yeah. I don't think that'll go down too well. Okay, I think that was it.
Just say to them. We got to say to them, do you want fibre broadband?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they were pretty much begging me before, so for that. So we better wrap up. But there was a couple of things I just wanted to touch on. The Windows Phone 8.1 developer preview had an update last week. Did you get the updates on that?
Yes, and it's for me. It might just be perception, but I feel it's made a phenomenal difference to the battery life.
Yes, it does seem better. I must admit, my lad's phone as well seems better.
Yeah, I haven't really noticed much else, but that was my one drawback. But I did accept the fact that it was because the drivers and whatnot weren't updated. But clearly they've found some bugs in the software. So yes, very pleased with that.
Yeah, I think that was pretty good. And we probably haven't got time to talk about it, but Microsoft is selling us an Xbox without Kinect, and you don't need gold to get the apps like Netflix, which I think is a good idea. Although I've just recently renewed my subscriptions. I'll probably keep it, but I probably wouldn't have done it had that announcement been made earlier.
Yes, and just to add to that, Microsoft are giving full refunds on Xbox Live Gold if you've just renewed.
Yeah.
Because of that announcement, which I think is an honourable thing to do. But when I use Xbox Live Gold for gaming and the discount, so I would always have the gold subscription. But
yeah, I'm not sure.
I think briefly touching on the Kinect thing, I think it's disappointing in a way, that I think they should have done this when they announced that the Kinect device didn't need to be attached, because I've heard people making a big deal about the fact that, well, it's the end of Kinect because nobody can guarantee the Kinect's connected anymore. Sorry, but in actual fact, because it wasn't required, actually, probably I bet there's many Xbox Ones sold with the Kinect that actually don't have it attached. So I'm not quite sure that's a big story from that angle, but certainly I think it's a shame Microsoft waited so long.
Yeah, it would have helped if they'd done it day one.
Yes.
But yeah, at least they responded to feedback, which is, like you said, perhaps a new direction for Microsoft after the recent years.
Yeah, and I think there's a definite reason why these two stories are broken ahead of these three, because they want that to be just about gaming.
Yeah, I can understand that. So I think that's everything we've got time for this week. So I'll go and see how Son's finger is and see if he's okay to press on the order button for the. I'm sure he's okay.
For the Surface Pro 3.
Yeah, that's right. Bob and Surface Pro 3. My wife's not in, so we'll just get it all done now.
Absolutely, yeah. Quick.
So, like I said, we're actually on holiday next week, so we'll actually take a proper break. So, no show next week, but we should be back on the following Tuesday, 8 o'clock UK time. Maybe Gary will be back from his flight, so I'll be back without a Surface Pro 3. Well, probably. I'll probably be back on the holiday on my own if I bought a Surface Pro 3. Yeah.
If you can fit a Surface Pro dock in your luggage, let me know.
Yeah, I'll pick one of them up. So thanks for joining us. So just give us your Twitter.
I'm at Database Jace.
Excellent, and we'll have links for everything in the show notes. And so have a good next week, and we'll see you the week after.
Yeah, you have a good trip, Ian.
Excellent stuff.